Have you ever made a snap judgment about someone that turned out to be completely wrong? What you're about to hear is a true story that will make you think twice before judging anyone based on appearances alone. This is the story of Zara Blackwood, a 17-year-old who thought she knew everything about the world until one Uber ride changed her life forever. The massive iron gates of the Blackwood estate swung open as Zara Blackwood stormed through them, her designer heels clicking angrily against the marble walkway. Her long platinum blonde hair whipped behind her as she clutched her latest iPhone, its diamond-encrusted case catching the California sun. The sound of her parents' voices still echoed in her ears, another lecture about responsibility, another plea for her to think about others for once. "Whatever," she muttered, pulling up the Uber app with manicured fingers that had never known a day of real work. The Blackwood mansion loomed behind her, all 30 rooms of it, but right now it felt like a prison. Her parents had threatened to cut off her credit cards again if she didn't start showing some respect and gratitude. The nerve of them, trying to control her when she was practically an adult. Zara's world was one of endless privilege. Private schools, designer clothes, exotic vacations, and a social media following that hung on her every word. She had over 200,000 followers on Instagram, all eager to see her latest luxury purchases or hear her opinions on everything from fashion to politics. In her mind, she was practically a celebrity, and celebrities didn't have to follow the same rules as ordinary people. The Uber notification chimed. "Miguel will arrive in 3 minutes in a gray Honda Civic." Zara rolled her eyes. She'd specifically requested a premium ride, but apparently even her father's influence couldn't guarantee a decent car in this economy. She was headed to Skylar's pool party in Malibu, where all the right people would be. Influencers, trust fund kids, and anyone else who mattered in their exclusive social circle. The gray Honda Civic that pulled up to the Blackwood estate looked like it had seen better days. The paint was faded, there was a small dent in the passenger door, and the interior, visible through the slightly tinted windows, appeared worn but clean. Zara's lip curled in disgust as she approached the vehicle. This was exactly the kind of thing that would ruin her image if anyone saw her getting into such a car. Behind the wheel sat Miguel Santos, a man in his early 60s with weathered hands gripping the steering wheel and kind eyes that had seen more than their share of the world's beauty and ugliness. His graying hair was neatly combed, and he wore a simple button-down shirt that was clean but clearly not expensive. When he saw Zara approaching, he stepped out to open the door for her, a gesture of respect that she completely missed. "You're Miguel?" Zara asked, her voice dripping with disdain as she looked him up and down. His accent was slight but noticeable when he confirmed his identity, and she immediately filed this away as another mark against him. "This is your car? I specifically requested a premium ride." Miguel's expression remained patient and professional. "I apologize, miss. This is the vehicle I have available today. I keep it very clean and safe. I promise you'll have a comfortable ride." Zara sighed dramatically and slid into the back seat, immediately pulling out her phone to document this travesty. She started a live stream, angling the camera to show Miguel's reflection in the rearview mirror. "Hey, beautiful people. You will not believe the car I'm stuck in right now. This is exactly why I usually take my own car, but Daddy decided to be difficult today." As Miguel began driving, following the GPS directions to Malibu, Zara continued her commentary. "So, Miguel," she said, pronouncing his name with exaggerated emphasis. "How long have you been driving for Uber? Is this like your career, or are you working towards something better?" Miguel glanced at her in the rearview mirror, his expression remaining neutral. "I've been driving for about 2 years, miss. It's honest work." "Honest work?" Zara repeated with a laugh, making sure her phone captured her reaction. "That's so cute. I mean, everyone has to start somewhere, right? Though I have to say, at your age I would have expected you to have figured things out by now. What are you, like 60? The traffic on the Pacific Coast Highway was heavier than usual, turning what should have been a 40-minute drive into what looked like it might take over an hour. Zara's impatience grew with each passing minute, and she began to take her frustration out on Miguel with increasing viciousness. "This is taking forever," she complained loudly, making sure her livestream audience could hear every word. "I swear, if I'm late because of this traffic, I'm going to be so upset." "Miguel, can't you take a different route? Don't you know these roads?" Miguel's knuckles whitened slightly as he gripped the steering wheel. "I'm following the GPS for the fastest route, miss. The traffic is unusually heavy today." "I'm sorry for the delay." "The GPS?" Zara laughed harshly. "You don't even know the roads without a GPS? How long have you lived in LA, let me guess? You're not from here originally, are you? I can tell from your accent." When Miguel didn't respond immediately, Zara pressed harder. "It's okay, you can tell me. I'm not going to report you or anything." Though honestly, shouldn't Uber drivers at least be able to speak English properly? I mean, customer service is part of the job, right? Her followers were eating it up, flooding the comments with laughing emojis and their own cruel observations. Someone wrote, "OMG Zara, you're so savage." And another commented, "This is why I don't take ride shares anymore." The validation only encouraged her to continue. "You know what's funny?" Zara continued, her voice getting louder and more theatrical. "I probably spend more on a single shopping trip than you make in a month. My shoes cost more than your car payment. Isn't that crazy? Like, we're living in completely different worlds." Miguel's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, but he maintained his professional demeanor. "Everyone has their own path in life, miss." "Their own path," Zara mocked. "That's such a diplomatic way to put it. I guess some people's paths just lead to driving strangers around in beat-up cars for pocket change. But hey, at least you're not homeless, right?" The cruelty in her words hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Several other drivers were stuck in the same traffic jam, and Zara noticed a few of them glancing over at their car. She wondered if they could hear her voice through the windows, and felt a perverse sense of satisfaction at the thought of putting Miguel in his place publicly. As they sat in the standstill traffic, Zara's attention began to wander from her phone screen. She was getting tired of performing for her audience, and the constant stream of comments was starting to blur together. It was then that something on Miguel's dashboard caught her eye, a small, gleaming object that seemed oddly formal and out of place in the humble interior of the Honda Civic. At first, she thought it might be some kind of religious medal or family heirloom, but as she leaned forward slightly, squinting to get a better look, she realized it was something much more significant. The distinctive blue ribbon, the gold star, the eagle. Even someone as self-absorbed as Zara recognized the Medal of Honor when she saw it. Her live stream was still running, but she found herself speechless for the first time in the entire ride. The medal sat there quietly, almost humbly, secured to the dashboard with what looked like a small, respectful display stand. It wasn't flashy or attention-seeking. It was simply there, a quiet testament to something she didn't yet understand. "Is that," she began, her voice suddenly smaller and less confident than it had been moments before. "Is that a Medal of Honor?" Miguel's eyes met hers in the rearview mirror, and for the first time during their ride, she saw something flicker across his expression. Surprise, perhaps, or maybe resignation. He was quiet for a long moment, as if deciding whether to answer her question. "Yes," he said finally, his voice soft but steady. "It is." Zara's phone was still recording, but she had completely forgotten about her audience. Her mind was racing, trying to reconcile the image of the man she had been mocking with the reality of what that medal represented. She knew enough about military honors to understand that the Medal of Honor was the highest decoration for valor in combat, something that was only awarded to heroes who had risked everything to save others. "You're a veteran?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Miguel nodded slowly. "United States Marine Corps. 3 tours in Afghanistan." The traffic began to move again, but the atmosphere in the car had completely changed. Zara found herself leaning forward, her previous cruelty replaced by something she rarely experienced, genuine curiosity about someone else's life. She ended her live stream abruptly, not even bothering to say goodbye to her followers. "How did you?" she began, then stopped, unsure how to ask the question respectfully. I mean, what did you do to earn that? Miguel was quiet for a long time, his eyes focused on the road ahead. When he finally spoke, his voice carried the weight of memories that never fully faded. It was during my second tour. We were on a patrol in Helmand Province, and our convoy was ambushed. IED took out the lead vehicle, and we were pinned down by enemy fire from multiple positions. He paused, and Zara could see his hands tighten on the steering wheel. My unit was trapped, we had wounded soldiers, and the enemy was closing in. I managed to flank their position and neutralize the threat, but... He trailed off, lost in the memory. But what? Zara prompted gently, her voice completely different from the mocking tone she had used earlier. But I lost good friends that day. The medal isn't really for what I did, it's for them. For the men who didn't make it home. Miguel's voice was steady, but Zara could hear the emotion beneath the surface. I wear it to remember them, not to celebrate myself. Zara felt something unfamiliar stirring in her chest. A combination of shame, respect, and something that might have been the beginning of real empathy. She had spent the entire ride assuming that Miguel was beneath her, that his life was somehow less valuable or meaningful than hers. Now she was beginning to understand that she had been in the presence of someone who had displayed more courage in a single day than she had ever been called upon to show in her entire privileged life. "Were you driving for Uber?" she asked, the question coming out more bluntly than she intended. "I mean, with your service record, couldn't you?" Miguel glanced at her in the rearview mirror, and she saw a sad smile cross his face. "It's complicated. The transition back to civilian life isn't always easy. I have PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Some days are better than others. Driving gives me flexibility to take care of myself and my responsibilities." "What kind of responsibilities?" Zara asked, though she immediately worried she was being too nosy. "My daughter," Miguel said, and for the first time since she had noticed the medal, his voice carried a note of pure warmth. "She's 23, but she has cerebral palsy. She needs help with daily activities, and I'm her primary caregiver. My wife passed away 5 years ago, so it's just the two of us now." As Miguel continued driving toward Malibu, he began to share more of his story, and with each revelation, Zara felt her worldview cracking and reshaping itself. She learned that Miguel had been a decorated Marine long before he earned the Medal of Honor, that he had joined the military at 18 because he wanted to serve his country, and because it was the only way he could afford to go to college. She learned that he had met his wife, Carmen, while stationed at Camp Pendleton, and that they had been married for 35 years before cancer took her. She learned that their daughter, Isabella, had been born with cerebral palsy, and that Miguel and Carmen had dedicated their lives to giving her the best possible care and the most normal life they could provide. After Carmen died, Miguel explained, "I tried to go back to work full-time. I had a job at a veterans center, helping other soldiers transition back to civilian life. But Isabella needed more care, and my PTSD was getting worse. Some days I couldn't even leave the house. The nightmares, the flashbacks, they were consuming my life." Zara listened in stunned silence as Miguel described the reality of living with invisible wounds from his service. She had never considered that veterans might struggle with mental health issues, or that someone could be a hero and still face daily battles that no one else could see. "Driving for Uber lets me work when I'm having good days and take care of Isabella when she needs me," Miguel continued. "It's not glamorous and it doesn't pay much, but it gives us what we need. Isabella is in a day program 3 times a week, and I have therapy appointments twice a week. This job lets me work around that schedule." "What about the VA?" Zara asked, surprising herself with her knowledge of veterans' benefits. "Don't they help with medical care and stuff?" Miguel's expression grew slightly bitter. "The VA does what it can, but the system is overwhelmed. I get some benefits, but not enough to cover everything Isabella needs, and finding mental health care that actually helps, it's a long process. I've been on waiting lists for specialized PTSD treatment for over a year. Zara felt a crushing weight of realization settling over her. While she had been complaining about her parents threatening to cut off her credit cards, Miguel had been fighting every day just to take care of his disabled daughter and manage his own trauma from serving his country. While she had been mocking his accent and his car, he had been quietly carrying burdens that she couldn't even imagine. They were getting close to Malibu now, and Zara could see the familiar landmarks that meant they were almost at Skylar's house. But instead of feeling excited about the party, she felt a growing sense of dread. How could she go back to her shallow, privileged world after learning about Miguel's life? How could she laugh and party with her friends when she knew that people like Miguel were struggling just to get by? "Miguel," she said suddenly, her voice shaking slightly, "I owe you an apology. A huge apology. The way I treated you today was inexcusable. I was cruel and ignorant, and I'm ashamed of myself." Miguel met her eyes in the rearview mirror, and she saw something she didn't expect. Not anger or resentment, but a kind of gentle understanding. "We all make mistakes, miss. The important thing is what we do after we realize we've made them." "But I was so horrible to you," Zara insisted, tears starting to form in her eyes. "I said terrible things, and I was live streaming it to thousands of people. I made fun of your accent, your car, your job, and the whole time you're this incredible person who served our country and sacrificed so much." "I'm not incredible," Miguel said quietly. "I'm just a man trying to do his best with the circumstances I've been given." "We all have struggles, miss. Yours might be different from mine, but that doesn't make them less real." Zara was crying now, tears streaming down her face as the full weight of her behavior hit her. "How can you be so kind to me after the way I treated you? If someone had said those things to me, I would have kicked them out of my car." Miguel pulled into the driveway of Skylar's house, a massive modern mansion that overlooked the Pacific Ocean. He turned around to face Zara directly, his weathered face kind but serious. "Because holding on to anger and resentment only hurts yourself. I learned that the hard way after I came back from Afghanistan. I was angry at the world, angry at God, angry at everyone who got to live normal lives while my friends were dead. That anger was eating me alive." "What changed?" Zara asked, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. "Carmen," Miguel said with a sad smile. "She told me that I could choose to let the war define me, or I could choose to let love define me. She said that every day I woke up angry was a day I wasn't really living. So I decided to live." Zara looked out at Skylar's house, where she could see her friends lounging by the pool, their laughter carrying on the ocean breeze. The scene that had seemed so appealing just hours ago now looked hollow and meaningless. How could she go in there and pretend that nothing had changed? How could she laugh about trivial things when she had just learned about real courage and sacrifice? "Miguel," she said suddenly, "would you mind taking me home instead? I don't think I want to go to this party anymore." Miguel looked surprised but nodded. "Of course, miss." "Are you sure?" "I'm sure," Zara said, settling back into her seat. "And please call me Zara. I think we're past the formalities now." As they drove back toward Beverly Hills, Zara found herself asking more questions about Miguel's life. She learned that Isabella loved to paint, despite the challenges her cerebral palsy created, with fine motor control. She learned that Miguel had taught himself to cook Carmen's traditional Mexican recipes so that Isabella could still enjoy her mother's food. She learned that they lived in a small apartment in East LA, and that Miguel's biggest worry was what would happen to Isabella if something happened to him. "Do you have other family who could help?" Zara asked. Miguel shook his head. "Carmen's sister lives in Mexico, and my family is scattered across the country. Most of them have their own struggles. Isabella and we take care of each other." By the time they reached the Blackwood estate, Zara had made a decision that would have seemed impossible just hours earlier. "Miguel, would you mind giving me your phone number? I'd like to stay in touch, if that's okay with you." Miguel looked puzzled but gave her his contact information. "May I ask why?" Zara took a deep breath. "Because I want to make things right. I want to learn more about your story, and I want to help if I can. I have a platform, those followers I was showing off to earlier, and I think I should use it for something better than just showing off my shopping hauls." Over the next few weeks, Zara threw herself into learning everything she could about veterans' issues, PTSD, and the challenges facing military families. She reached out to organizations that supported veterans, volunteered at a local VA hospital, and began using her social media platform to raise awareness about the struggles that many veterans faced after returning home. Her first post about Miguel was carefully crafted and posted only after she had gotten his permission. She told the story of their encounter, taking full responsibility for her initial behavior and explaining what she had learned from him. The response was overwhelming, thousands of comments from people sharing their own stories of misjudging others, and many offers to help Miguel and Isabella. But Zara didn't stop there. She organized a fundraiser for Miguel's family, raising enough money to cover Isabella's care for an entire year, and to help Miguel access better mental health treatment. She also connected him with a non-profit organization that helped veterans find stable employment, and within a month, Miguel had been offered a position as a counselor at a veterans center, a job that would allow him to use his experience to help other soldiers while still maintaining the flexibility he needed to care for Isabella. The transformation in Zara was remarkable. Her parents, who had been at their wits' end trying to teach her empathy and responsibility, watched in amazement as their daughter became genuinely interested in helping others. Her social media content shifted from vapid displays of wealth to meaningful conversations about social issues and spotlights on people making a difference in their communities. 6 months after their first encounter, Zara sat in Miguel and Isabella's small apartment, helping Isabella with a painting while Miguel prepared dinner. The apartment was modest but filled with love. Photos of Carmen covered the walls. Isabella's artwork was displayed proudly, and Miguel's military medals sat in a place of honor on a small shelf. "I still can't believe how horrible I was to you that day," Zara said, watching as Isabella carefully guided her brush across the canvas. Despite her cerebral palsy, Isabella was a talented artist, and her paintings were filled with vibrant colors and joyful scenes. "You weren't horrible," Miguel said from the kitchen, where he was preparing Carmen's famous enchiladas. "You were young and ignorant. There's a difference. I was 17, not 7, Zara protested. "I should have known better." Isabella looked up from her painting, her speech slightly slurred but her meaning clear. "Daddy says everyone deserves a second chance. You're using yours to help people. That's what matters." Zara felt tears prick her eyes. Isabella's wisdom and kindness, despite the challenges she faced every day, never failed to humble her. "You're right, Isabella. I'm trying to make sure I deserve that second chance." Miguel joined them in the living room, wiping his hands on a kitchen towel. "You know, Zara, meeting you taught me something too. I had started to become bitter about the way some people treated me, the looks, the assumptions, the casual cruelty. But seeing how you changed, how you grew from that experience, it reminded me that people are capable of growth and change. It gave me hope." Zara's story had spread far beyond her original social media following. She had been invited to speak at schools about the dangers of prejudice and the importance of treating everyone with respect. She had started a non-profit organization that connected privileged young people with veterans and other service members, creating opportunities for mutual understanding and support. Miguel had thrived in his new job at the Veterans Center, using his own experiences to help other soldiers navigate the challenges of civilian life. He had finally been able to access the specialized PTSD treatment he needed, and while he still had difficult days, he was managing his symptoms much better. Isabella had been accepted into a new day program that focused on developing her artistic talents, and she was happier than she had been in years. But perhaps the most significant change was in the relationship between Zara and Miguel. What had started as a chance encounter between a privileged teenager and an Uber driver had evolved into a genuine friendship between two people who had learned to see past surface appearances to the humanity beneath. "You know what's funny?" Zara said one evening as they sat on the small balcony of Miguel's apartment, watching the sun set over the city. I thought I was so worldly and sophisticated because I had money and followers and all these material things. But I didn't know anything about the real world." Miguel smiled, his weathered hands wrapped around a cup of coffee. "Wisdom doesn't come from wealth or education or social status. It comes from experience, from struggle, from learning to see others as they really are, instead of as we assume them to be." "I'm grateful for that Uber ride," Zara said. "It changed my life." "It changed mine too," Miguel replied. "It reminded me that there's still goodness in the world, even in places where you don't expect to find it." As Zara's story continued to spread, it sparked conversations about privilege, prejudice, and the hidden struggles that many people face. Her transformation from a spoiled, entitled teenager to a compassionate advocate for veterans and other marginalized groups inspired others to examine their own biases and assumptions. The fundraiser she had organized for Miguel's family had grown into a larger initiative that provided support to dozens of veteran families facing similar challenges. Her nonprofit had connected hundreds of young people with veterans, creating lasting relationships that benefited both groups. Miguel's story had also had a profound impact on how people viewed veterans and their struggles. His quiet dignity and resilience in the face of both combat trauma and civilian prejudice had opened eyes and changed hearts. He had become a sought-after speaker at veterans events and had been featured in several documentaries about the challenges facing returning soldiers. But beyond the public recognition and the positive changes they had created, both Zara and Miguel had found something more valuable, a deeper understanding of what it meant to be human. They had learned that everyone carries invisible burdens, that courage comes in many forms, and that genuine connection between people can transcend all the artificial barriers that society creates. 2 years after their first encounter, Zara was preparing to start college with a full scholarship she had earned through her advocacy work. She had been accepted to study social work, with a focus on veterans affairs. Miguel had been promoted to supervisor at the Veterans Center, and Isabella had sold several of her paintings to help support local veterans programs. "I've been thinking about that day we met," Zara said, as they sat in Miguel's Honda Civic, the same car where their story had begun, though it had been repaired and was running much better now. "I keep wondering what would have happened if you hadn't been so patient with me. What if you had just kicked me out of your car?" Miguel considered the question seriously. "I think you would have learned the lesson eventually. Maybe not that day, but someday. Good people usually find their way to goodness, even if it takes them a while." "You think I'm a good person?" Zara asked, still sometimes surprised by Miguel's faith in her. "I think you're a person who chooses to do good things," Miguel replied. "That's what matters. We all have the capacity for both cruelty and kindness. The choice we make every day is which one we're going to feed." Zara nodded, understanding now what Miguel meant. She had learned that being a good person wasn't about being perfect or never making mistakes. It was about recognizing when you were wrong, taking responsibility for your actions, and choosing to do better going forward. As they drove through the streets of Los Angeles, past the mansions of Beverly Hills and the modest neighborhoods of East LA, Zara reflected on how much her perspective had changed. She no longer saw the city as divided between the important people and the invisible ones. She saw it as a community of individuals, each with their own story, their own struggles, and their own contributions to make. "Miguel," she said as they pulled up to the Veterans Center where she now volunteered every weekend, "thank you for seeing something in me that I didn't even know was there." Miguel smiled, the same patient, kind smile he had worn even when she was at her worst. "Thank you for proving that it was there all along." As Zara walked into the Veterans Center, ready to spend her Saturday helping other soldiers navigate the challenges of civilian life, she carried with her the lessons that Miguel had taught her. She had learned that true strength came not from wealth or status, but from service to others. She had learned that real courage was not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite that fear. And she had learned that the most profound changes in life often came from the most unexpected encounters. The Medal of Honor still sat on Miguel's dashboard, a quiet reminder of his service and sacrifice. But now it shared space with a small photo that Isabella had painted, a picture of three people sitting together, smiling, representing the unlikely family that had formed from a chance encounter between a spoiled teenager and a veteran who had never stopped serving his country. The story of Zara and Miguel serves as a powerful reminder that we never know the full story of the people we encounter in our daily lives. The person serving your coffee might be putting themselves through college. The janitor cleaning your office might be a published poet. The Uber driver taking you to your destination might be a decorated war hero who has sacrificed more for his country than most of us ever will. In a world that often seems divided by wealth, status, and background, their story shows us that genuine human connection is still possible. It shows us that it's never too late to change, never too late to choose kindness over cruelty, and never too late to recognize the dignity and worth of every person we meet. Miguel's quiet heroism, both on the battlefield and in his daily life caring for his daughter, reminds us that courage comes in many forms. Zara's transformation reminds us that growth and change are possible at any age, and that our mistakes don't have to define us if we're willing to learn from them. Their friendship, built on a foundation of mutual respect and understanding, proves that the artificial barriers that separate us are far less important than the common humanity that unites us. In a world that often seems to reward cruelty and selfishness, their story is a beacon of hope, showing us that kindness, compassion, and genuine connection are still possible. So the next time you encounter someone in the service industry, remember Miguel. The next time you're tempted to judge someone based on their appearance or circumstances, remember Zara's transformation. And remember that behind every face is a story. Behind every story is a human being deserving of respect and dignity. And behind every act of kindness is the potential to change someone's life forever. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Have you ever had an encounter that completely changed your perspective on someone? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might inspire someone else to look beyond first impressions and see the humanity in everyone they meet. And if you want to hear more stories about the power of human connection and the importance of treating everyone with dignity and respect, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell. Together we can create a world where every person's story is valued, where every act of service is honored, and where kindness triumphs over cruelty. Remember, everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Choose kindness. Choose understanding. Choose to see the medal of honor that every person carries in their own way.